Hey, welcome back to the channel, Gate of Babylon, the gate to everything. Gate of Babylon is here, Gilgamesh, whatever you want to call me. I call myself Ali Baba Saluja. I am Ali, welcome to the channel, Gate of Babylon. Let's go. Now, you saw the title. Today we're gonna talk about, let's jump directly to the action. Today we're gonna talk about what's so-called, officially the name of it, the omnidirectional mobility gear, short the ODM gear, the OG gear, just for my super short, the OG gear. Well, it is the Attack on Titan gears that gets added on the human, that with knowledge of knowing how to use it, of course, you can move around with it and kill. It's supposed to be the main target of it is to be able to kill titans from 5 meters tall, something on a line like that, to all the way up to 20 meters tall or more. You can climb with it, you can travel with it, but the main issue with it needs something to hook to. It's more like Spider-Man stuff in terms of the travel and the movement, and it's officially, on average, it's at least 60 miles per hour. That's the speed of it that can push you at a moment of time. But if you saw the show, if you know the Attack on Titan, you know these stuff, so you definitely know this, so I'm not gonna explain how it is exactly work. It's just the thing that makes a human move around and reach heights with it very quickly and fast, and overwhelm the Titan with speed and highly dynamical, maneuverable, sphere, like from all type of direction and angles movements. That, well, to put it simple, it's a super mosquito. When you put that on, you are a super mosquito. Just make it short. When you put this gear on and you know how to use it and you have experience with it, you're just a super mosquito. No more, no less. Well, still with these gears, some of you might really. Most people didn't 100% watch Attack on Titan and stuff like that. So how they still kill the titans with this? Well, they target the neck, and more specifically behind the neck, because of the stuff, if you know the show. And or the eyes, and to paralyze and stuff like that, so they can't see. And how they do that? Well, they do that with super sharp, super tough, what they call ultra steel blades attached to their hands with the gear. However, if we saw the title, what if the ODM Attack on Titan gear was used? The Titan Slayer gear was used in World War II. And it's I really got this idea when I saw the last Attack on Titan video, the 6th episode 65. I got that idea in my head. What if this used in World War II? Whether it is the East, more specifically in Europe, and of course, it has limitations stuff. We're gonna talk about that, but most specifically, we talk in Europe, East Europe, West Europe, doesn't matter, because it needs stuff to hook to. And for that reason, let's get to the point of, I just want to clarify very fast why this wouldn't be used, for example, in World War II, and World War I, I mean, or in Napoleonic War, or in collision wars. Before, Napoleon Wars are more like additional collision wars. But anyway, in my book, I will classify, collision wars and the Napoleonic War as the First World War, and then you have what's so-called now World War I and World War II, and in my book, I will classify, the Cold War as World War III. World War III already happened, and still happening, still going. Yes, Soviet Union broke down, Russia still exists, Moscow is still there. Okay, So yeah, and Washington's still there, so the fight didn't end yet. It's just began. It's just the beginning. It's a Cold War, very slow and really flamely cold. You know, when something becomes super cold, it can burn. You know. Yeah. Now let's get to the main thing. In terms of discussing the gear, you know the gear. However, you know, it's 100%, of course, it's not gonna be used exactly the way how it's used in Attack on Titan. Of course, it's gonna have some modification, maybe different versions for different areas, so on and so forth, because this is gonna be, you know, special forces. You know, certain people gonna train for this, so certain units for certain actions to take certain targets. You know, and there's gonna be some addition to it, adaptation and changes there and there. Of course, I'm talking here up to the date, in terms of Attack on Titan gears, but all the old version and the new version, both of them are highly capable. But, you know, probably let's mix both of them together. Like, I mean, it's imagination and design, and, you know, engineers, when look at this and want to use it in war, they can do some all type of crazy stuff with it. And I think it is doable, and all this development can be done during World War One and World War Two. But it wouldn't like be totally unuseful in World War One, but it's like not gonna do much. You know, it's gonna be used in only like certain specific situations, kind of like a tiny support force. But in World War II, it's a game changer. I think this type of assumption is as much a game changer as much as, you know, the instant Legolas bow edition. You know, instant Legolas. It's even more in terms of what you can add to it, and, you know, the application of this can go even further than that. You know, I really cannot comprehend how much variations and, you know, types and modification can be done to this. There's all sorts of stuff that can be done to this gear, and, you know, the gear in this sense, because you want to maximize the full potential of this idea. It's not gonna be only gear itself, like the soldiers, because they're also gonna have some specific special training, and they're not gonna be normal soldiers. The gear will also incorporate clothing and stuff like that. Specific clothing gonna be the other stuff that can be added to the gear, which is the expensive part. The rest are not. I don't think so it's that expensive. In fact, I would say it is probably a little bit more expensive than a normal rifle back then. So it can be done pretty easily, I think, if they just had the idea, just like the same in Instant Legolas. It just needs someone to think about it and does it. But they're capable of doing it, capable of like designing something like that. In terms of its usability and you know, how you're gonna be skilled enough to use this, and application of it, how good is it in hooking. You know, I know it's hooks, but all that stuff can be tested and can be, you know, figured out, and you can train the soldiers that's gonna use this according to those. But it's doable. It would take some time, but it's doable to be used on the battlefield, and to be used, like, to be able to use it. It needs probably some modification there and there, you know, in the interior structure and the way how it operates in general. Perhaps because, you know, it's still anime. It's you know, the writer, it's not an engineer, so it probably needs some changes there and there. All that stuff, just put it out of the window, because in the end of the day, if they had this concept, they would make it happen. They would just think about it and do it. The engineers, if one of them had this idea, they will be able to make it work. But the concept in general, that's why I'm focusing here, is extremely useful in World War II, and even in the Korean War, and it is really an excellent tool of taking helicopters down. Now, let's get to the application of that. to the main part of the video. I just want to develop the context first, so that's what I did. Now let's jump to the main part of the video, and that is how useful, how effective, and how much of a change can this do to history if this was used in World War II. The thing is also I'm not just because let's make a picture first, and that is this is mostly used to take down Titans, but the one I'm gonna talk about is assuming they would develop a slightly more efficient in terms of, you know, targeting, taking down vehicles, annoying soldiers, making some, you know, imaginary barrier like some buffer line, you know, that type of thing. So those rocket thing, they use an attack on Titan can be extremely useful, just like how we saw in the last episode. Can be really in episode 64, 65 can be really useful even in taking on, you know, normal humans. Of course, it needs a little bit more modification. That's what I talked about. Just bear in mind that idea there. Don't just over here we're talking about creativity. Just open your mind a little bit, but don't go crazy, okay? How now let's jump to the main point of the video. How much of impact does that would do in World War II? The first thing is I want to talk about on how effective this is. It's really a game changer for, you know, close quarters fights and, you know, urban fights and battlefields inside of cities or in mountains, or in forests. It's extremely useful, extremely good. Of course, you need first, you know, specific soldiers trained in this. Like in our thing, like, you know, the eastern front of World War II would require, you know, eastern front. I mean more specifically the Russian area, Russia and Germany. Not the Pacific. Okay, don't make that mistake. Pacific is a different front against Japan. All right, just make that. Just for some of you who doesn't know this. Anyway, so the Eastern Front against Russia and Germany. I think Russia or Germany would need like 60, 120,000 of these guys. Even 60,000 would be good. The reason 60,000, they would not be using 60,000, but if one or two gets down or gets injured, they have like kind of like how the 10,000 immortals of the Persians. When someone takes down, like cannot fight, will get replaced. Not necessarily dies, but gets replaced instantly. So they maintain this number all the time. So they have 60,000, but perhaps in the battlefield there's like 30,000 of them. I don't think more than that would be necessary, but more than that would be better, of course. But this is a good number in my opinion, because they will be operating in groups, of course, and they will be, you know, making. Oh, we'll talk about that. There will be specific, you know, attacks and, you know, the tactics you can use in this. So that they wouldn't like be all out. They wouldn't like just massacre everybody. It's that's not what's this about. Yeah, but the more the better, of course. However, in the Western Front, perhaps half of those. So you have 30,000, you have half of those, 15,000, which are operating all the time in the battlefield. And whenever of these 15,000 gets injured or dies, gets replaced with one of the other 15,000. Now let's talk about how effective it is. First, there's not many of the if they train properly of using this and they master it. There's no way that there's a lot of them gonna get injured and killed. Like it's almost impossible to lay even a bullet on them. And of course, they will be wearing armor against bullets, you know, and soldier equipment, because that's the most mobile and dangerous to these type of gears. So they will be wearing more armor, and you know that type of modification I'm thinking of, like to maximize its potential. So the armor will be attached to the gear. The gear will be a little bit high, so then the armor it's a little bit heavier than normal armor. Normal armor is 15 kgs, 20 kgs all around your body, so it's not that heavy, but you can add even more solid steel, more powerful steel than the medieval steel. And yeah, so I think if we wear armor and stuff like that, it will be able to stop off all type of rounds that soldiers use. And so even if you land a bullet, you need to land the bullet in a specific areas behind the knees and stuff like that to actually make damage. So showering bullets is still not enough. The thing is, when I'm talking, just imagine with me, just using imagination. With these super mosquitoes moving around, how will World War II soldiers take them down? There's machine guns, there's their own equipment, and there is vehicles, armed vehicles, stuff like that. Most notably tanks. Tanks also have, some of them, their own machine guns, and that's it. Done. Does any of that even make any danger to these soldiers using the OG gear, the ODM gear, as it's called in Attack on Titan, the official name, because they move fast? But how? At the same time, talking about modification. What if they move even faster? Of course, when you move faster, then you need goggles, so on and so forth. But that's all part of the modification, and maximizing of potential of this design that can be done. So imagine they move, they have the potential, or whenever they want to, the soldiers, depending on how they choose to move, let's say 300-400 kilometers per hour. Moving 60 kilometers per hour, it's still, I would say 100 would be good enough, because when if you're watching this, Attack on Titan, just watch the first episode, just watch the third episode of Attack on Titan, whatever. Just watch some Attack on Titan videos and you understand what I'm talking about. It's not just moving 60 miles per hour as it's said in the enemy. You can change direction. They can change direction more mobile and more quicker than Spider-Man does. It's not just speed and can push you and drag you. It has a lot of mobility. It can do a lot of quick movements. Yeah, that's what I mean by a super mosquito. It's really a super mosquito. How will the soldiers lay bullets on these guys? You just can't. Yeah, especially when they're using tactics of surprise or whatnot. You just can't lay a bullet on them, especially if they're experiencing using it. You just can't. And I'm talking here in 60 kilometers per hour. Of course, I'm not saying it is 100% you can't. You would do. That's why there will be some injured and some dead, of course. But if there's tens of thousands of them, I don't think so. Like, if they go like all out, 30,000, perhaps you have like after the battle 100 of them injured and killed, something online like that. Like, I'm assuming like they're really good in using it. That's the thing. Of course, I'm not saying like 30,000 Mikasa or 30,000 Levi, or 15,000 Mikasa and 15,000 Levi. I'm saying like good at it, but average, like good enough, and can bring the full potential of the gear they're using. It's not really technology, this design, this idea. The thing of it's really hard to bring him down. It's not like jets, because jets back then, or even helicopters nowadays, even jets nowadays, they they are straight like bullets. They can change around, they can do all these maneuvers, but they can't just do, like, they're not a sphere, alright? Plus they have a lot of drag. When you are a human, you have less drag. I mean, human is smaller than a jet, way smaller. Jets, they look small, kind of small. On the radar, they look small, like when you look at them, because they're flat. Like even a car can look small. Like bring a Lamborghini car, you say, oh, this is like not really that big a car, but make a vertical. Just lift it and make it vertical. It'll be huge. For instance, a mobile suit. I mean, Gundam mobile suit. It's really not that much bigger. It's few times heavier, but it's not that much bigger overall than a jet fighter, than a modern jet fighter like F-22 and F-35, for instance. They're not much bigger than it, but it's more stand up. It looks bigger. A carrier is about 500 meters long. That's a sky tower. Alright? That's a skyscraper, man. Imagine a skyscraper as a ship. That's based and puffed up with steroids. That's basically a carrier. A sea carrier, to be more specific. Yeah. So they have less drag, so they can move faster. There's other stuff you can use to move even faster. So moving like 400, even 200 wouldn't be a problem. You just put goggles and stuff like that, and it would not be a problem at all. So when you are super mosquito, like how the soldier's gonna take you down? Of course, you're not gonna be high up in the air. Like for most of the time, you're gonna be like sneaky. Surprise attacks. It's all about mobility, not just speed. It's a super mosquito and a human super mosquito. So you be intelligent. There's coordination with a unit. There's a unit cooperating with another unit. There should be some communication system with them. Of course, there will be support position. So when you finish your ammunition, you can go back and get your ammunition from these positions and refuel and all of that stuff. And the more you take down, the more you plant of these positions, take resources from them to keep the soldiers going on and on, like continue fighting. I mean by positions like tiny camps where you have resources in. So when the soldier comes, you refuel them and give them resources, and then they go back right again to the battlefield. Those would be really helpful to maximize those soldiers' potential. Otherwise, you need more of them. However, more of them means more training, and for military, it's really a hassle to train soldiers to a good level and stuff like that. So yeah, like if you think about it, even in modern times technology, a little bit now. If you're watching this a year from now, it's a little bit different game, because now some rifles have automatic shooting, more like what I mean by automatic shooting, like not automatic shooting. What is a better word? But anyway, the idea is a lot of a rifle nowadays, like for proper military, if they wanna like give you the top niche technology, they basically have aimbot on them. Basically, it's like playing Warzone with aimbot. With that, there's gonna be a lot of hits on the soldiers with this ODM gear and other stuff like that. There's gonna be a lot of hits on them. The kill rate and the injuries, the casualties rate would go higher. But even though it would not be that high, especially when the way you use them, that determines how much is gonna be losses. But yeah, even in modern times, like until now, there's not much deployment of these type of technology, so it's still just normal rifle and stuff like that, no import. So with these, even with modern time technology, taking these guys would be ridiculously hard. The soldiers on the ground totally powerless. Helicopters will be mostly totally powerless. Still helicopters don't have AI on them. They don't have reports on them, so it would be totally powerless. There's some helicopters who do has some AI support to it. Those will be able to take one or two, but you just take one or two, or perhaps one or two soldiers will just act as a diversion. They will come at you from a distance, and then the robot will be shooting at these to take them down. Meanwhile, some others will attack you from behind and take the helicopter down. Helicopters will be kind of the best way, highly mobile, quick helicopters, and drones, stuff like that will be really. They will be able to take them down. If you smash the area with heavy artillery and stuff like that, will be effective against them, but expensive. However, I'm saying, like, even in modern times, until now, what it's used in the industry and what's used in the military until now, I mean by until now is there's a lot of technologies that still didn't have been used. There's a lot of technologies that didn't have been bought on the market, because you know how the market works. It's business, so there's a lot of stuff hidden as well. But what's used now, what we know about the military now, in the time being that is used and deployed, very much the ground forces and helicopters are totally not totally useless, but a lot useless. Except for if you use drones and stuff, there will be some issues with the drones, and of course, but until now there's not much huge number of drones that you can just deploy them everywhere. So that's a disappointment there. That's a way how they can hack through the drones is basically perhaps make some attacks, a diversion attacks, and then the drones will go over there, and then you make another attack with a bigger force in another area, and so they have lesser drones or no drones or few drones and stuff like that. But forget drones. If you just take drones and AI after the picture, just what most of the countries of the world and most of the military legions of and units of the United States does use, the ground forces and the helicopters are like 80 to 90% useless. Not complete, I mean, they're useless, but they're not gonna be massacred. They're not gonna be just wiped out. They're not, like, if they wanna take some area, they will be able to invade it. It's like, it's not gonna stop them from invading. But what I mean by useless is they wouldn't be able to hit them that effectively. They would not be able to kill a lot of them. They would not be able to paralyze them. I mean by paralyzing them, like shut down the units of this type of force. They will be constantly harassed. A lot of soldiers would die. A lot of machines would be destroyed. United States or whatever other country will lose a lot of resources, so on and so forth. And that's even in modern times until now with what's used in the market and in the battles that the United States and the other few countries are fighting in. And yeah, most tanks would be useless. The Abraham tanks, maybe. Yeah, with this, there's some tactics you can do. You can take them down. Yeah, most tanks would be, like, and other vehicles will be totally easy to destroy with this. Basically, if you have this force, even in modern times, any country wouldn't want to get into the city. If they get into the city, they need to prepare for huge losses. Of course, the best way to defeat something is to use the same weapon. One of the best ways, not the only one, but one of the best ways is just use the same weapon. So you deploy your own units of these type of using these gears, and they have been trained well to use this. And you hope they take them down, push them, neutralize them, something like that. Yeah, it will just change the battlefield for sure, even in modern times. Like, just tell me how the tanks and the vehicles, the machine guns, the soldiers, the helicopters will be able to deal with this without drones. Like, just tell me how they're gonna land hits. Like, snipers can do nothing in this. Of course, if this soldier with this gear is stationary, and a sniper comes, that's like kind of like a free kill, so to speak. Anyway, now let's get to the point about talking about how this will look like in World War II. In terms of the Western Front, like, wait, okay, let me give you the conclusion. If Germany has this, and nobody else until now has this, or didn't get the idea, if Germany has this, very much they will be able to stop the Allies at Paris, and they will be able to neutralize the Russian. Of course, they will be kicked out anyway out of Russia, but Russia won't be able to get to Poland, in my opinion, if they use this. And a whole lot more soldiers gonna die. This war will go way further than 1945. In fact, if they have this, Japan will surrender and Germany would not be defeated. And I don't know after that what's gonna happen, but I'm pretty sure if Germans has this, they'll be able to neutralize their position. There will be a buffer zone that the United States and Russia wouldn't just be able to cut through, because simply with these, we're gonna talk about in separate. But if the Allies has this, I'm talking Allies more specifically, the Allies without Russia. If the other Allies, United States and its allies, if they had this, they most likely will smash through Eastern Germany, no problem. They will be faster, that they will take most of Germany, not just the West Front, even half perhaps of the East Front of Germany. If would Russia have this, yeah, they will be the one in Paris before the Allies gets to Germany. Especially if they just deploy a huge number of these guys with ODM gear. If like 300,000 with the ODM gear out of the 20 million soldiers they had on the battlefield. Not exactly, they didn't have exactly 20 million, but there's 20 million soldiers they keep rotating. If like 300,000 of them have their ODM gear, it will be OG. Yeah, they will reach France before United States and its allies UK reach France. Paris. And that will be a big problem, huge problem. If what else? If Japan had this, I think Japan will be, until the point where the United States is able to bomb mainland Japan. That perhaps would take multiple years to get that to that point. It would take a few more years to get to that point, because the islands will be much harder to take down with these gears. Like 10% harder. I don't think a lot more harder, because there's no much building and stuff like how we see in Attack on Titan or in Germany and other parts of Europe and Russia at the time. But the big problem with this, if Russia has it, or more specifically if Germany has it, they could, for instance, deploy 10,000 like let's say the Germans, they could, for instance, make a sneaky, intelligent attack with 10,000 of these guys. They say these 10,000 know English as well very well, and they know American English, and they sneak into mainland America. They can be ridiculously annoying, especially if they bring a lot of money and they, make some intelligent moves. I mean by intelligent moves, smart moves. And get some gangs on their side and stuff like that, make some allies there. They can be ridiculously annoying. They might actually be able to damage a lot of ships, supplies, and it will be disgusting. It will be disgustingly annoying for the United States. Germany could do that easily. In street fights, in urban fights, and inside of a city, if the ODM gear would be used in World War II, it would be the OG weapon of the time inside of a city. Like if you have these guys inside of a city plus the rest of the armies that we know about, it will be really hard to get through. Because simply with the rockets, they have RPGs. They would use RPGs. They would use heavy weapon like heavy modified sniper weapons, like 20 mil shots or 50 BMG shots. They would have machine guns with them. Perhaps some of them, they will have some, rifles with them. Grenades, launchers. They launch it like an arrow and stick and explode in certain areas. They will have more grenades, gas grenades. They have gas masks on them with the gear. They move really fast around. They're really dynamic. They could assassin, generals. They could destroy important positions. They can destroy the command. They can hurt the command line. They can target certain strong points. They can There's a whole lot. Perhaps this needs another video in the future. But it opens a different, like a lot of potential and different possibilities. They really would be effective. They can really easily take down tanks over time, really damn easy. Because one rocket, with high explosive TNT instead of just gas, will be able to decimate a tank. Like, trust me, one or two would decimate a tank, especially if it was a Russian tank, because they focus on quantity than quality during World War II. Yeah, one rocket would take that tank, would shred it apart. It's not gonna be vibrated, but the soldiers inside will be dead and will be unfunctional. Yeah, it will be. So I really don't have any idea of how the soldiers of World War II and their ground forces equipment and technology, tanks and armed vehicles would stand any chance, especially if they don't have even helicopters, man. So how will they even stand a chance against such an attack? Because it's not just few tens of thousands or 20,000 or 10,000 or few thousand of people or skilled people using ODM gear. There will be the army still behind them. Plus, with the ODM gear, they can penetrate really deeply and they can annoy you. They can, make the soldiers on the battlefield behave differently. They could trick the soldiers, like even if you have more soldiers than they are, they might be able to break your soldiers down and make the front line really chaotic and unorganized. The numbers will be useless in that regard. There's a whole lot of application in this, and with using rockets, RPGs, machine guns, heavy sniper weapons, say with bullets that's explosive as well, using gas grenades and other special grenades, gassing the entire area. They have masks with them against gas. With rifles with them, and shooting heavy, like shooting like an arrow, but like really a lot of explosive and stuff with them, perhaps explosive arrows as well. Perhaps, let's say, the bullets also will be modified so it maximizes the potential. The bullets will be poisoned and explosive. I think it requires another video, but the application of this is crazy. Hopefully, this video would be interesting for you, and hopefully this will make a lot of talk on the internet. And tell me your opinion in the description below. How would this ODM OG gear, with modification, of course, and a constant change, and perhaps you have different types or different climates and stuff like that, will operate in World War II in Europe? How effective it would be? What's the application of this, and how much it would change history? And what's gonna happen if somebody has it? Do you agree with me? What's your opinion? Or put it down below. Hopefully some other creators will make videos of this idea. And yeah, it's Attack on Titan time. So subscribe to the channel, leave a like, put your ideas down below in the comments. And Gate of Babylon, the gate to everything.
Whatever. Please, I want to reach 1 million likes. So please,